It's Mindset Monday, it's Mindset Monday, it's the time where we get our mindset right. Alright, so hello, good day, good viber, and how are you doing? Alright, so we're going to be doing this rather quick, rather fast live stream today on this Monday. Happy 4th of July for all my people that are celebrating today. Alright, let's talk about my socks for a moment. They're American flags. Okay, anyways, back on topic. So we're going to be talking about parenting yourself because we all are children of God. And we all also have the opportunity to be parents. Well, most of us do if we want to. And I know there's like a lot of people don't. And it's awkward with all the laws that are happening right now. But anyways, we're not focusing on that right now. Good fiber. We're talking about how to parent yourself. Why it's so important that you learn how to parent yourself. Because quite frankly, if you don't learn, if we don't take this mindset, and let me just start with a story, right? All right. So as you know, you popped out here on earth and you were a child. We were all children at one point. And we all have parents, okay? Whether they're biological or, our chosen, whatever the situation is, somebody raised us as a child. All right. Now there comes a time in your adult life where we gotta take care of ourselves. Cool. All right. Now let me tap back into this concept of the inner child. We are children, but we are also the parents. Just like when you look at a tree and you look at a seed, okay, that tree, it's throwing all these seeds down, and those seeds, they are simultaneously, they're the parent and the child. As soon as that seed's planted, it's the parent and the child. Okay. Now let me stop talking so meta now and talk practically about what this means in terms of how is this going to help get your mindset right? How is this going to help us get our mindset right for the week? All right. I'm not about to do story time right now, but I will just share a little bit about my experience with the inner child, okay? What it looks like, what it feels like, what you can expect when you're playing with your inner child. So our inner child is connected to primarily, I would say, our lower 3 chakras. But if I were to be specific, your root, your sacral, and your throat chakra. Period. Those are the ones that you should be aware of. Now, the thing is, your inner child, they're playful. They like to have fun. They like to be free. They want to feel safe. These are all valid things. And we all need that. We all want to feel safe. We all want to have fun. We all want to be validated. We all want to express our imagination freely. Our inner child is that creative force within us that just wants to explore the world and play. What's good, James? You already know. So, yeah, that's pretty simple, okay? We all have an inner child. I know that my inner child can be a little wild sometimes. They're a wild child. They always have been. And they get in a lot of trouble if I don't monitor and keep them in check. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like when an inner child maybe is going a little wild? Okay, maybe this is ignoring important emails that they should read, or doing basic responsibility stuff, washing, cleaning, some of the things that you associate with being a little bit boring but necessary part of adult life. Now, our inner child, that they're getting a little wild when they become really impulsive. They're just going from one thing to the next. They're not really finishing anything. And maybe they're showing almost like addictive tendencies. It's like they just want more. Have you ever just given a kid a whole bag of candy? Most of the times, unless that child is disciplined and has already developed a good inner parent with themselves, they'll eat the whole bag, okay? I mean, it happens to adults too. So this idea of discernment isn't really there with the inner child. It's just go play, curiosity, not thinking about the consequences, not thinking about the long term, just thinking about the immediate here and now. Now, of course, our inner child is amazing, and this is what we want to think about when we get our mindset right for this week. How can we utilize our inner child more in our lives to make productivity more playful? How can we utilize our inner child to create more spontaneous opportunities for growth? How can we utilize our inner child to tap more into that nostalgia? You know, these are some of the questions we should ask ourselves. Our inner child is almost like this comfort zone. Buy them a toy. They play with it for 10 minutes and get bored. Yeah, so our inner child is something that is very spontaneous, a little bit crazy, and very impulsive. But there's a lot of beauty within the inner child as well that we can learn from through the way that they express their emotions, the honesty that they have and hold, and the boldness that children are able to make without thinking a second thought. That's something that's really powerful, and we all have the ability to use this energy, and I think it just comes down to how are you utilizing it? Are you practicing discernment and putting the energy where it can be optimized? You know, so inner child stuff. Now, when we think about the inner child in our mind, it's like monkey mind. I'm sure maybe if you've been meditating, you heard of monkey mind, right? It's like when your brain is just chatting on and on and on. It's getting distracted constantly. It's so curious about what's going on in your mind, but it's kind of like that kid's it's like, got any games on your phone? And you're like, come on, I'm trying to like have a moment of peace, and the kid's just poking their face out all the time, and you're like, all right. So monkey mind, it is like that inner child which has so much energy running around all the time, very hard to calm down, and you're just a bit impulsive. You don't know what their next move is going to be. So this monkey mind within our own mind is something that this is why we're going to now parenting yourself, what that looks like, what it seems. And I'll be real, a lot of people weren't parented, or they weren't learned or taught or given a good example of what a good parent is, and they're doing their best, okay, with what they have. So the best way, I would say, if you want to parent yourself better, is to actually tap into that inner child and pretend a little bit. Play pretend, being that pretend parent for your own inner child. Now, why do I feel like this is an effective way? Because you're utilizing the inner child to balance the parent. So you're utilizing the creativity of your little monkey mind, inner child, wild child, to channel that energy into a counterpart for your inner child. This idea of pretending to be the parent is something that I think, because you're still that child, you're more tuned into understanding the child's needs. And I'm sure you know kids, they play pretend all the time. They play house, they play shop, there's a lot of play pretend situations. And I think when we're tapping first into parenting yourself, playing pretend to be the parent if you don't feel like the parent at first, because hey, that's utilizing your inner child energy, and you're actually channeling it, alchemizing it, so it can be used for more kind of fun, playful parent energy. You got over 100 games on your phone, and they can't decide on what game to play. I mean, so tapping into this energy again when we're getting into parenting ourselves is listening to the inner child. So yes, playing pretending that you're the parent, because then you'll see, right? When you were a kid, did you ever say, I'm never going to do that to my kid? I remember as a kid, some of the things that my mom would do, whether it was for like punishment or, I was just being a smartass at the time. I remember saying, I'm never going to take away my kids' phones or tell them they can't go on the computer and all this stuff. And now I'm at a point where if I actually play pretend, even as a kid, I realized like I was kind of doing those things. I was like, hey, get off the computer, honey. It's time to go to bed. Go eat dinner. You still play pretend because like, okay, these are the things that even a child knows a parent should do. And that's the beauty of playing pretend at first, pretending to be your own parent. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So really important that you utilize your imagination when you're tapping into this parent energy, as not to kind of scare that inner child or make them feel like they're being forced to do something they're not, but actually engage that inner child energy, or the right brain, into the left brain activities and the responsibilities of life within your mind. So that's the first thing that you can do. So even if you have that monkey mind, right, what you could do is pretend to be a monk. What would a monk do if they had monkey mind, right? So utilizing your imagination is so important. Tapping back into parenting yourself, this is when we talk about accountability. So a parent, the inner parent knows that their actions have consequences. If they don't feed their kid's gonna cry and is gonna, do what they do because they're cranky and hungry, okay? Like, ugh, I don't know why that example came through, but yeah. Okay, pretending this makes sense. Good. That's a good way to use the imagination there, James. But yeah. So, what can we learn from accountability? Well, parents have to be accountable to this inner child. What does that mean? The parent knows that a part of their responsibility for the inner child is to take care of them. They are the parent, the reason that child is there, it's a big, because of the parent's actions. That's why the child is there. So when we tap into taking accountability for ourselves and our inner child, for taking care of ourselves as if we were a child, what does that accountability look like? This is when we talk about the long-term goals that we may have. Taking care of ourselves so that we can sustain and maintain a good life where we feel like we're being sustainably growing. Taking accountability really means that you are aware that, unlike a child which may pick things up and throw them down the next moment, you realize that nobody else is going to pick up what you throw down, that you have to be the one to go back, pick it up, and put it down. And so that's a big part of taking accountability. Of course, as a parent, like, you probably have told your kids all the time, like, hey, you can't do that, you're too old for that, like, go back, fix yourself, because you're teaching them and you're now sharing the value of taking responsibility and having accountability for your actions and for what you do in the world. And it is beautiful, and it's really important as a parent, when we're parenting ourselves, that we take accountability for our actions, whether they're good or bad. Whether you are a child in one moment and you throw a tantrum, it's important that in the next moment you tap into that parent energy. What would a parent do? They would probably apologize for maybe having a tantrum. Maybe they would pick themselves up. They would make sure that nothing's broken. They would clean up their mess. And so taking accountability for your actions is a big parent energy. And so really we're going for this middle ground where the parent and the child are learning and from one another, where your inner child is looking up at the parent and they're saying, wow, I want to be like you when I grow up. Wow, I'm so thankful that I feel safe, right? This is so weird, right? Because we have an inner child, we were that inner child, and now we're growing into that inner parent. And that inner parent is looking at that inner child thinking, wow, I love your creativity, I love your spontaneity, I love the energy that you bring to the table, and just the fearlessness and the love that you have. So finding equilibrium and a balance is really what we're going for when we're talking about all this beautiful stuff and what we want to happen in our mind, so that every distraction becomes a tool for further focus. Okay, so yes. Yeah, they get hooked on McDonald's. Yeah, 1 Corinthians, brethren, be not children in understanding, in malice be children, but in understanding be men. Yeah, so spare the rod, spoil the child, take accountability. Yes, it's so important for you to realize that we are all children, and we are all also becoming more adults every single moment. So what's good, James Harden? I'm gonna be honest. I'm definitely growing up. I'm becoming more like an adult. The responsibilities have grounded me more into this more open, expansive space where I feel more safe. For myself personally, I know that my inner child, it was like, you can quit your job, Esther, do whatever. And honestly, I needed that energy at the time. If I was too much in my parent, I would have been like, I have bills to pay, I gotta finish school, I gotta do this. And yes, these are all legitimate things that my brain is like, yes, but my inner child's like, you're only gonna live so long, enjoy the ride and do what brings you joy. And so finding this balance where I'm listening to both sides has been one of the biggest and most rewarding parts of my personal development, where I'm realizing that I can be a child at times. I can tap into my inner child and I can feel safe and I can express myself and that energy and just have fun. And I love it. But there are also times where I can tap more into trusting. I can trust myself to be that child and not be afraid that, oh, this was too childish. Oh, tapping into my imagination and creating something that's never been done before is illogical. Oh, really creating something that I think is worthwhile and brings me joy isn't valuable. And taking those thoughts, which are usually associated with the parent, and growing up and utilizing the inner child, leveraging that energy so that my parent can remind my inner child, yes, what you're doing is valuable. Yes, you are sustaining yourself. Yes, you can do what you're here to do, and it is plausible, and you can take the steps in a logical manner and you can get there. So there's this balance that I really wanted to encourage you to find within your own mind, where you are allowing yourself to make mistakes like a child would. A child doesn't see mistakes and failure the same way we do. Let's get this really clear. A child doesn't see when they spill a glass of milk, unless we say, they're just like, okay, well, it looks like I missed a cup. Fine. Try it again. So this concept of failure, maybe that's not the best example or the strongest example I could use, but children are constantly learning. So they don't see any experience that they have as a failure. They just see it as a learning experience for them to better understand the world that they are in. And this mindset is so powerful and so potent, and something that has helped me so much with my own mind, with my whole life experience, realizing that my inner parent would be like, hey, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? This isn't how things are done. You're gonna fail at this, so why even try? Those minds, the parent part, which is usually the more logical kind of negative side that has the limitations in order to keep us safe, there are times where you can let up on it. And I think a good parent in your mind should let you know what the limitations are. Okay, you only have this much time, you only have this much resources, this is as far as your knowledge goes. But it's just letting you know what the limits are. It's not saying you gotta stop here. It's just letting you know these are the resources that you have at this time. And then at that moment, allowing your inner child to really play with what you have in a safe way. Keyword safe. You want to allow yourself to really feel grounded. That parent should be the structure that the child has so that they can play and they can really explore and they can feel safe, so they can spill that glass of milk, so that they can learn how to pour themselves a drink, so that they themselves don't have to rely on other people and they can feel more safe and they don't have to feel like they're failing, but they know that they're learning. So the parent's role is to encourage the child to learn, to encourage them and give them a safe space so that they can further explore the world and use the creativity that they were given and the gifts that they were given and the imagination that they're given so that they can expand. And so when we're talking about parenting ourselves, parenting yourself, it really just goes back to, how am I allowing myself to feel safe when I'm in this really crazy energy? Maybe it's a little bit chaotic. How am I allowing myself to give permission to make mistakes? Where am I allowing myself to really learn from new experiences? Where am I giving myself permission to be spontaneous? How am I utilizing my imagination in the real world so that, I can expand and grow and develop more and feel that sense of safety and security, even if I'm not sure, the unknown. Children don't know that much, but they're so fearless, they just go out and do it. So how can we utilize that fearless energy and that potential to really help our parent trust the child, How can you trust yourself, really? How can you trust the thoughts in your mind? How can you trust that you're utilizing your energy correctly? Giving yourself permission to trust that inner child. I think that's the biggest one. And then also leading that child. Okay, yes, it's one thing to trust the child and be like, okay, I trust you, and then let that child run off into the middle of the road. No, it's saying, okay, I trust you, and then letting them know, hey, stay out of the road because there are cars passing by. Let the child know when the parent is speaking, communication between both hemispheres of the brain. Logically, this is what's going on. This is the statistics. These are the limitations. On the right side, this is what I want to do. This is how I feel. Finding that harmony and balance, because it's just going to help your experience here on earth, I think, be a lot more enjoyable. So enjoy the rest of your day. I hope that you liked today's video and that you continue to find that balance between parenting yourself and being the inner child. Let me know what your experiences look like when you are parenting yourself. Are you strict? Do you have a negative dialogue? Do you find yourself kind of stopping yourself from starting before you even begin because you have all these limiting beliefs? That's a part of the parent that we have to acknowledge. And where can we trust our inner child more? How are you utilizing your inner child? What are you creating with them? What kind of spontaneous action are you taking and trusting in is for a bigger purpose? Anyways, we all could learn how to parent ourselves a little bit more, and I think as we continue to listen to our emotions and understand the logical sensations and experience of the world, I think we're going to just help ourselves and everybody else. So thank you so much again for joining. I hope that you continue throughout the rest of your week and just develop the understanding and relationship between your parent and child's being. And I will see you in the next video. God bless. Namaste.